This conference will now be recorded.
So in the last class, we have seen about your inheritance and we have seen about polymorphism. We have seen about your abstract class. So what is meant by an abstract class? I'm asking as an interview. You have to tell in English. Okay. So in abstract class, we will be having only one abstract method. So that abstract method is we don't have the implementation in that abstract method. So where we have to do that implementation? So we can do that in your child classes. We have to do that in your child classes. So what is the concept of the child class? That's called as your inheritance. Inheritance is nothing but copy of all your parent attributes and methods to your child class. And if you wish, you can change your logic according to your needs. The same example which I told you yesterday, your dad is running with a business. So now your dad is about to retire and he has transferred the business to you. Maybe you can go within the same path or you can able to change the business model. So it all depends upon you. Now the properties of your dad's entire property has been transferred to you. It's your responsibility where you want to continue with that or where you want to change. So that's called as inheritance. If you want to change any method, so that how can you do that with the help of a keyword redefinition. So redefinition is a keyword which is used to change the logic which is there in your parent class. So can I change the parameters of a method when I call the parent class in your child class? Can I change the parameters? The importing parameters, exporting parameters, it's possible to change. It's possible to change parameters. No, it's not possible. So the method overloading is not possible in SAP ABAP. Overloading is we are trying to change the parameters. Whereas the method overriding, so we are going to change the ABAP code. So that is possible in SAP ABAP, whereas the method overloading is not possible. How can you change the method overriding? By using a keyword called as redefinition. See, I'm just rounding on the same word redefinition. So that's how the interview questions is. So what is redefinition? So which method, whether overriding is possible or method overloading is possible in redefinition. So what in which concept you will be using redefinition, inheritance concept or interface concept. So in those cases, we will be using your redefinition. The same redefinition concept we are going to use it in OData services. We are going to mostly will be using in your OData services. Or if you are writing completely in your OOPS programming, your entire project has been run in your OOPS. So then we will be using that method overriding that is called as your redefinition and everything. Now, one more question: how can you achieve polymorphism? What is meant by polymorphism? What is meant by polymorphism? The name of the method will be same across the classes, but the implementation of the method is different. So that polymorphism you can able to achieve via your interface. If I go back to my classes running notes, that I have already told you that. See, this is called as your interface. The method name is same in class 1 and class 2, but you can go ahead and write your own ABAP logic in your class 1 and you can write your own ABAP logic in your class 2. That is called as your polymorphism. So polymorphism, how can you achieve the polymorphism? We can achieve with the help of your interface. The same thing I have already written this. It's a concept in which the same method name will behave differently in different class. That means each method of the class will have its own implementation. The name of the method is going to be the same, but the implementation is going to be differ. The implementation is going to be differ. So for example, if I go ahead with an example, I'll be taking a Hyundai car. The AC will be same across in all the models, but whether you want whether you want the auto climate control, or whether you want to go ahead with your manual control based upon the variant. So now, if my variant is higher, so I'll go with a the name is AC. AC name will be same in your normal as well as in your high-end cars. So whereas in the high-end cars, I will write the logic for auto climate control, whereas in the normal car, I'll write the code for your manual AC control. So that's how the difference. The interface name is the same, that is AC, where you will be having a method how to control your AC. So now that method implementation, we are not going to write that in your interface, where you are going to write down in your classes where you are going to use, So how can you achieve inheritance? How can you achieve this inheritance? And there is one more thing. One more thing. I forgot about that.
Rakesh?
Multi-inheritance concept is how can you achieve multi-inheritance concept? Is possible in SAP multi-inheritance is possible? No, because
Not
you
possible.
can't able to pass two classes in your child class. So only you can assign one super class. In SAP, the single inheritance is possible, but multi-inheritance is not possible. So you can assign only one super class. But how can you achieve multi-inheritance? We can also achieve via your interface. So you can provide multiple interfaces. So if they say that multi-inheritance is not possible, I can say multi-inheritance is possible. How can you do that? With the help of your interface. So you can provide multiple interfaces. But whereas if I want to provide only one single class, so that you can assign via your super class. So that is called as your single inheritance. Multi-inheritance is possible with the help of your only through interfaces. And even polymorphism can also be achieved with your interfaces only. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Ajay. Someone is asking interview question. Someone is asking questions. Ajay Karthik.
Rakesh? Yes.
Yeah.
What is main difference we can say between abstract class and interface?
Yeah, so I'm going to that. So now, in case of your, so now abstract class means it's not a fully implemented class. That means you will be having for sure one abstract method. In that abstract method, we won't be writing your logic. So if I consider all the methods as an abstract, can I call that as an interface? What is meant by, before we go ahead with that abstract class, what is meant by interface? What is meant by an interface?
Contains
Interface will contain
It
only
contains methods without implementations. So that means we can call that as a class. Whereas abstract method is also which contains a method definition. We don't have your method implementation. We don't have method implementation. So let's say in an abstract class, I keep every method as an abstract method. So then we call that as an interface. By layman terms, we can call it as an interface. We can call it because all methods we don't have the implementation. So by layman, we can say that as an interface, but when you are using in your child classes, you can pass only one abstract class. Can you pass multiple abstract classes? No. So in the super class, we will be providing the abstract class. Whereas coming to the interface, we can provide n number of interfaces in your one particular class. That's the difference between an abstract class and an interface. So I already keep that. In the child class, we can add multiple interfaces, whereas we can add only one abstract class. Whereas we can add only one abstract class. These are some of the important things which you have to know in case of your classes. So clear Ajay now? Ajay, it's clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now let's go ahead and see how to work with your OOPS programming. So whenever you are working with an OOPS ALB, so OOPS ALB uses the UI technology format. That means however you want, you can go ahead and design your screen. However you want, how much length you want, you can design. Whereas that in reuse ALV, that you can't able to do it. So in order to work with your OOPS ALV, we need something called as your containers. The container is a thing where you can place your ALV. So where you can keep in your container, you can keep the container on your screen. So that means whenever you are working on your OOPS ALV, the first and the foremost thing is we need to design a screen. A screen is a place where you will be passing your inputs and you will be getting your output. Even the selection screen, if you see the word selection screen, that's a screen which will design automatically by SAP. You are not going to design it. If you want to design your own selection screen, that is possible with the help of your module pool programming. So module pool programming is we have to design our own screen however we want. However we want, we can go ahead and design our own screen. So now in your traditional programming with the help of your reuse ALB, the screen will be designed by SAP. We are not responsible for designing of your screen, either the input selection screen or the output screen. Whereas in your OOPS ALB, the output screen you can design on your own. You can design on your own. How to design that? So we have to go ahead and first call our required screen. We have to call our screen. Which screen I want to call? And then in that screen, in order to display the data, so where we want to display, at which position we want to display the data will be told by your container. Will be told by your container. In that container, we are going to place our output ALV. We are going to place our output ALV. It's a three-step procedure. What is the first step procedure? What is the first step? We need to design your screen, and then we need to create the container, and then we need to provide our ALV. So these are your three steps. For these three things, we have different things. One is to design the screen. We have a keyword called as call screen. Call screen. The screen can be designed in two ways. So you will be going to SE51. If I log on to SAP, class continue. Yes, don't worry. Okay. I do have one more software ready. I'm going with HANA system. So let me log on here. So now I can go with SE51. So here you have to provide your program name and which screen you want to design. Which screen you want to design. So now this screen number will be gets designed, and you have to use a keyword called as your call screen, and you have to go ahead and write down. You have to go. That screen will be gets called. That screen will be gets called. You have to come to SE51 and first you have to design your screen, or else directly in your program when you write your call screen, double click on that screen number, it will directly go ahead and create your screen. Either you can do it manually by coming to SE51, or you can go ahead and do it by double clicking on that screen number. By double clicking on that screen number. So this is the two-way procedure. Okay. So now this is what I have provided you in your now how to create your container, how to pass your grids. We do have different ALVs. One is the CL underscore GUI underscore ALV grid. This is equal to like your reuse ALV grid display. So what is the purpose of reuse ALV grid display? We'll be providing your internal table, we'll be providing your field catalog, you can change your events and everything. Based upon that, the report will be gets displayed. The same concept we will be doing with your CLGUI ALV grid. The main functionality of this is to display the data in your container. So now this format, the ALV grid. So in order to display the data in your ALV grid, we have to call this class CL underscore GUI underscore ALV grid. In that class, you will be having a method called as set table for your first display. This method is the one which is going to where you have to provide your internal table, where you have to provide your field catalog, where you have to provide your events and everything. Whatever the things which you are going to provide in your reuse ALV, the same thing we are going to provide it over here. If you go ahead and debug this, internally SAP will again call reuse ALV grid display only. It will go ahead and call reuse ALV grid display only. Then you can ask me why I need to go ahead with your containers. I can directly use my reuse ALV grid display. If I want to provide the data in my container, you have to call this class. You can't be able to pass the data with the help of your reuse ALV grid display. Reuse ALV grid display, SAP will create your screen, SAP will create your container, and it will pass your data, but it will take a full screen. It will take the full screen and it will pass your data. But whereas when you go ahead with your container, what is the size of your container you have provided? It will accommodate the ALV in that particular container. So that's the difference between the real the CLGUI ALV grid and reuse ALV grid display. But when you go and deeply inside that, when you debug this, it will call again reuse ALV grid display only. All your ALVs, whatever you are going to see, whether it's a CL ALV grid display or CL SALV table or CL IDA or CL underscore IDA. So all these things internally SAP will call reuse ALV grid display only. Now, how to create your container? In order to create your container, you will be using something called as CLGUI custom container. So we are creating our own container. Whereas in SAP, when you are going with reuse ALV, the container will be created by SAP itself. Now, when you are creating your own container, you have to provide. So, what is your container? In order to provide those details, we have to call this class CLGUI custom container. So, these are the major two things which you will be using or which you will be playing in your OOPS ALV. These are the main two things which you are going to play in your OOPS ALV. The next thing is CL underscore DD underscore document, which is used to upload the logos. In order to upload your logos, you have to use this CL underscore DD underscore your document. Or in order to place your logo in your ALV, you have to call this class. Whereas in your reuse ALV, so you will be writing what is the function module which will be used for displaying of your logo. Reuse ALV commentary write. In that you will be providing your top of page, and that you will be providing your logo. But the logo is fixed at this area. In this area only the logo will be fixed. Whereas in your your OOPS ALV, wherever you want your logo, you can go ahead and keep that logo. That is possible in your OOPS ALV. So however you want, you can change your screen as per your client's requirement. So that is only possible with the help of your OOPS. Okay, the next one is CL underscore GUI container and CL underscore GUI splitter container. Now I have a container. I want to again split the container into multiple parts. Okay, I have this container. Now this container I want to split again. In the screen level, you can define multiple containers. In one container, you can split the container into multiple parts. So in that case is you have to use CL underscore GUI underscore splitter container. In that splitter container, you have to provide how many number of rows you want to split it and how many number of columns you want to split it. Let's say I want to split to 2 rows and 2 columns. Now, how many sub-containers you will be having? 4 sub-containers. 4 sub-containers. In the first sub-container, how can you provide the ALV in your first sub-container? For this, you have to use this one, CL underscore GUI underscore container. So this is to create your custom container. In that custom container, you can split your custom container. In that splitter container, if I want to pass the data, you have to use this GUI container. You have to use this GUI container. And in that again, you will be going to use CL underscore GUI underscore ALV grid. CL underscore GUI underscore ALV grid. So, and then you will be providing your data, what data you want to provide. And the next one is CL underscore GUI underscore docking container. So this is nothing but the container you can ask SAP to create it. You can ask in the screen if the container wants to design automatically by SAP, we are going to dock the container. So place that container automatically. So that we can do it with the help of your docking container. And the next one is in order to upload or in order to download or in order to F4, all these things we have used your function modules like your file underscore F4 underscore file name, call function, GUI upload, GUI download. All these are function modules, but when you are using with your OOPS base, you have to use CL underscore GUI underscore front end services. So when you are writing in your OOPS, everything you have to write down in your OOPS programming only. Okay, the next one is CL underscore SLV underscore table, which is S stands for simplified ALV. Simplified ALV. So you don't need to create your field catalog. SAP will create your field catalog automatically. So when you have an internal table, when you have the data in your internal table, you have to create your field catalog to provide your headers. But in this, when you are using the simplified ALV version, SAP will go ahead and create your field catalog. The automatically creation of your field catalog will be taken care by your SAP. That's called as your simplified ALV. But what is the issue with your OOPS ALV? What is the major issue with your OOPS ALV? You can't able to run the programs in your background. You can't able to run the programs as a background job. Why you can't able to run the programs as a background job? Background job doesn't have a capacity to create your screen. Background job processes. So I told you what are different types of processes we do have. Foreground processor, background processor, spool processor, update processor. So where can we see those processors? What is the transaction code? What is the transaction code? SM51. If I go here and if I go to /O SM51, you can go to your application server ABAP. In this, you can find out what are the different processes that are available. So foreground is nothing but your dialog, update processor, background processor, and your spool processor. So I told you this. Now, when you are running the program in the background, it will use your background processor. Now, this background processor doesn't have a capacity to go ahead and create your screen, to go ahead and design your screen. So that's the disadvantage with your OOPS ALV. That's the disadvantage with your OOPS ALV. Now, when you are working on real time, you need to ask your functional whether this program is running in foreground or whether this program is running in your background. If you are going and running that program in your background, you can't able to create your screen. You can't able to design your screen. So in that cases, we will be using this CLSALV table. In that cases, we will be using CLSALV table, simplified ALV table. So this has a capacity to go ahead and work with your background. In this CLSALV table, you can go ahead and design this. You can go ahead and ask You can go ahead and call the class without designing of your screen. But these classes, whatever these classes you have seen, for all these classes, you have to design your screen. You have to design your screen. Is that clear? Clear, guys? Any questions? Okay. So now you can ask me, can I call this class by designing of my screen? Yes, you can also call this class. You can also call this class. So this, you can use this without creating of a screen as well as with creating of your screen. But when you are creating with screen, if you are using this one or if you are using this one, you can't able to run the program in your background. So background doesn't have a capacity to design a screen. So after the screen only you will be calling your ALV. If it doesn't have a capacity to go ahead and design the screen, what is the logic? Whatever the logic we have written, it's not applicable. Okay, clear with this? Clear with this, guys? Now, let's go. Now, so the same thing. In order to design your screen, we have to call a syntax called as call screen. Once you double click on the screen, it will go to the screen painter SE51. SE51. So the same thing even in your module pool programming too. The same thing even in your module pool programming too. Now, let's go ahead and see that one. Now let's go back and I'm just going to create one dummy program. The dummy, let's take 10 a.m. I'll just click on create. So I'm going to take this as screen modules and I'm going to take this as executable program. Click on save and as of now I'm saving that in my local object. Now let's get activate the program. I just activated. Now I'll go to /OSE51. So I'm just going to copy this program. I'm going to place it over here. The screen numbers which you have to use must be greater than 9,000. The screen number you have to use. Custom screen numbers must, whenever you're creating the screen, it has to be greater than your 9,000. So 1 to 8,999 screens are reserved to SAP. Are reserved to SAP like your A to X or naming conventions are reserved to SAP, right? In the same way, just give me 1 second. Sorry for the guys. So now, as I was telling you, so in order to design your custom screen, you have to use from 9000 series. 9000 series are only applicable for our custom things. Even you can pass it, you can pass 1000 or 1001, whatever it is. SAP is not going to stop you, but the recommendation of SAP is to use greater than 9000. So usually we will be writing with 9001, 9002, 9003 in real time. But maybe in our class, sometimes I might use 1000, 1001. But when you're going with real time, you have to always use greater than 9000 only. Okay. So that whenever the system gets upgraded, it won't create any issue. It won't create any issue for you. Okay. So that's the reason I'll always recommend to use 9000 series. So now I'm going with 9001. So even see, if I go ahead with 1001 also, if I click on create, it will allow you to create. I was telling you, it will allow you to create. It won't stop you not to create it. Like how you are going to in SC38, if you say not equal to Z or not equal to Y, it will stop you for, it will ask you for an access key. But whereas here, it won't ask you anything. It will allow you to create it. But the recommendation from SAP is you have to use greater than 9000 series. You have to use greater than 9000 series. Or greater than 9000 series are mainly for your custom screens, custom developments. Okay. So now I'll just go back. I'll just cancel this. And now I'll go ahead with my 9000 series. Now I'll just click on create. So this is your screen painter. This is your screen painter. The same thing we are going to see again in your module pool programming. Here I'll be going in depth, whereas in module pool programming I will go on an overview again. Okay. So in this, majorly you will be having four things. One is your attributes, one is your element list, one is your flow logic, and one is your layout. One is your layout. So in this attribute, it will tell us what type of a screen we are going to create. In SAP, either you can create a pop-up screen. So when you're creating an information message, how the information message is coming up as a pop-up, right? So that's called as your pop-up screen. And you can create your sub screens. You can create your normal screens. Now, this is nothing but your sub screen. This is one screen. This complete area is one screen. In this, you are designing the screen into multiple tabs. So this is one sub screen. This is another sub screen, and this is your another sub screen. So that's called as your sub screen. So and another one is your module dialog box. So this is nothing but your pop-up. This is nothing but your pop-up. So as of now, when you are working on your OOPS ALV, as we are going to create as your report output, we will be selecting this as your normal screen only. We'll be selecting this as your normal screen only. Okay. Now I'll just go ahead and remove this one. Okay. Now I'll be saying this as output screen. Output screen. I'm just providing a short description. I'm just going to create the screen as your normal screen. That's it. Now here, this will be telling you what is the length of your screen. Will be telling by this rows and your columns. Maybe here somehow it is small as so I can't be able to increase the size over here. So that's bad. The rows and columns here, how many rows and what is the size of your screen will be told by this one. Now, if I go to this element list, so whatever the fields you are going to use in this screen, so you can provide your elements. That means in your selection screen, you will be providing your fields, right? You will be providing your fields, right? All those fields will be shown up over here. Even your table maintenance generator also, what we have seen, in order to check whether it's an input enabled or input disabled, we came to this element list where you can find out whatever the fields that are available in that particular screen. You can find out in that element list. Now the flow logic is a place where you will be writing your entire ABAP logic. The flow logic is a place where you will be writing your entire ABAP logic. Now there is one more thing called as your layout. This is one more thing. See here in the flow logic, you have seen your pretty printer and pattern has been enabled. The pattern to call your function modules, to call your classes and your methods, or to call from your dictionary what fields you require. So same thing. The pattern, you will be seeing that. And now if I go back to your layout, if I click on your layout, it is a place where you will be designing your screen. Okay, I can't help you. I need to call Rafi now. Just give me one second. So let's see about this layout as it is not working in your HANA server. I can't able to help you. So let's see our server is up and running. Then I can show you the layout over there. So now the description I'm going to say this as dummy, and then in the flow logic is a place where you will be writing your code. So in this flow logic, basically we will be having 4 events. We'll be having 4 events. One is the PBO, process before output. The next one is PAI, process after input. And the next one is POV, process on value request. And the next one is POH, process on help request. So I'll be covering this process on value request and process on help request when we are dealing with module pool programming. So process on value request, if I say, it is like similar to like at selection screen on value request, at selection screen on value request for event. Whereas process on help request, it is like you are at selection screen on help request. Both are the same. Both are the same. But now coming to this PBO and PAI, process before output. So when whatever the logic which you want to display before the output, that means before the ALB has to come up, we will be writing that entire logic in PBO. That means your select query, your field catalog, your reuse ALV display, or I can say in this CL ALV GUI grid, CL ALV GUI grid, all this entire logic we will be writing in PBO. That means before the output, whatever the logic I needed, you have to go ahead and write down in PBO. Next, after the output has been displayed, what action I need to perform, like your double click event or your back button. As you are creating your screen, you have to design your back buttons and everything. The screen is in you, the screen you are designing your custom screen, you have to do it everything. You have to do it everything. The menu painter in your interactive reporting, we have seen about your at user command. In that as user command, we have created our own painter, we have created our own application toolbar, right? So there also we are creating our own GUI status, set PF status. Set PF status we are using. Here also we have to call, when you are creating your screen, you have to design your PF status, everything you have to design on your own. Everything you have to design on your own. Now, after the report output has been displayed, so what action you want to do, whether I want to do a double click, whether I want to do a hotspot click, or whether I want to click a back button. So any interaction after the output is been displayed, we will be writing the logic in PAI. We'll be writing the logic in PAI. Now PBO is process before output, PAI is process after your input. Now if I go here, the same thing I have written. So when we double click on screen, when we create a screen, SAP will generate 4 modules. SAP will generate 4 modules. One is your PBO, the next one is PAI, the next one is POH, and the next one is your POV. So which is nothing but the PBO is process before output. Before the output, if any logic has to be triggered, then you have to write out your logic. In that case, if I say this as the start of selection and end of selection, you will be writing in PBO. The start of selection, the end of selection, the top of page, the end of page, all your events you will be writing in PBO. So next, PAI is process after input. After the output has been displayed, if I want to perform any activities / actions, then we will be writing the code in this event. In this event, like your at line selection, at user command, top of page during your line selection. I was just comparing with your report events. I'm just comparing with your report events so that you can able to easily understand. So those codes we will be writing in PAI. The next one is POH, process on help request. So it is called as your F1 help at selection screen on your help request. Next, process on value request, F4. It is same as like your at selection screen on your value request. Now, what are the ALVs we are going to see over here? One is oops ALV with the structure. The second one is oops ALV with the field catalog. The third one is ALV with the top of page, the logo and end of page. The fourth one is ALV with events. The fifth one is splitting of screen and displaying of your multiple ALVs. The sixth one is your tree ALV, and the seventh one is your docking container. Okay, so I'm holding up the class right now as we can't able to have it with your layout. And for 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock batch, you have a special class right now for your new syntaxes, which we are going to start it in another 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes. Take a break of 5-10 minutes and join to the same link. Even 8 o'clock batch, if you want to learn the new syntaxes again, you can join to the same link again. So before I signing off for today, any other questions? So tomorrow, as I told you, you have a class at 9 o'clock to 10 and 10:30 to 11:30. 2 classes which will be in online session. Hopefully, the SAP has to be work. So if SAP is not working, I can't able to take up the class. Okay. So that's all for today, and we'll meet you in 10 minutes in the same link, and we'll start it with your new syntaxes. Thank you all.